Hello everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this newest episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Michael from Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone.
No guest this week, unfortunately, because I haven't actually had time to go around and ask anyone.
Yeah, and I've been knee-deep in closing off teaching and job interviews. No, it's both of us. I've been absolutely useless at finding guests for the past 6 months, so if anyone's to blame, it's probably me.
Okay, I'm going to blame you then.
Please do. Because the comments already like you more, so we might as well keep it that way.
Nah, everyone knows they like you more. That's beside the point. Anyway, in the news this week, there is quite a bit.
Yeah, some of it's administrative, some of it is actual news-based. I think probably the most important point that we need to make is obviously, for those of you who are unaware, the cancellation of AdeptiCon. Due to
Steve Carino.
Due to current events that we shall not mention by name lest the demonetization hammer come down on Remleiz's channel, AdeptiCon has been cancelled. We completely understand why, and I would say I completely support the organisers in their decision. It's the right thing to do, given everything that's going on. So, sorry if you were an AdeptiCon ticket holder. I hope that they are able to refund or otherwise assist with it. Maybe you get a free ticket for AdeptiCon 2021. I don't know.
I'm sure they'll do something in regards to it. Like either they'll do refunds or they'll just say your ticket's valid for when we reschedule the con or something.
Yeah, because it might just get bumped back into the summer or the autumn. What I'm interested about, alongside that, obviously this is the most important thing, but is what GW will do with their reveal seminar. Because normally they do a huge seminar. They've got a big reveal planned for AdeptiCon. So are they just going to drop it? Are they going to do a Warhammer TV reveal stream seminar from the depths of Warhammer World? I'll be curious to see how they now respond to the cancellation of AdeptiCon.
I mean, everything's up in here at the moment. Yeah, it's all Steve Carino's fault, but hey.
It's definitely a difficult time for some people, and obviously look after number one and look after those around you goes without saying. Nurgle
wash your hands.
Yeah, Nurgle is abroad, and whilst I wouldn't say embrace Tzeentch because that would be pointless, it is certainly worth keeping yourself and those around you safe. So please do.
God, we started this episode in quite a depressing manner, didn't we?
Well, it's the important part of this whole period now. It needed to come up, and AdeptiCon being such a huge event for everyone in the community, whether they're affiliated with GW or not, it's a huge thing, so it was worth talking about, and hopefully we won't need to mention it too often again, but it's worth having the PSA for people because, you know, we are almost public figures at this point. It's kind of, we have a duty of care almost to our audiences.
I suppose so. Right, shall we talk about the GAMA reveals instead then, speaking of which?
Yes, since AdeptiCon wasn't happening, before all the cancellations began, the GAMA show, which was a lot quieter, as I recall, last year, decided to drop a few sneaky reveals on us, and I was not expecting as many as we got. I was expecting maybe a little bit. I was expecting like a little bit of Specialist, a little bit of like the board games, maybe an expansion for a box set. That was all I expected. I did not expect to get the Necromunda House of Blades expansion. I'm just going to run through the quick contents of what we got, and then we'll talk about each point in detail so we don't miss all the points.
Yeah, of course.
So, House of Blades, House Escher gets its expansion book to go alongside House of Chains for Goliath. The Daughters of Cain are in Warhammer Underworlds, and I want to talk about it. The Knight Acheron and Knight Castigator are coming to Titanicus, which goes with was it the Porphyrion that got put in there recently?
I believe so.
So at least that style of knight. You're going to have the Defensive Riser, which is the next campaign book for Titanicus, to go alongside the last one I think was Molech. For Age of Sigmar, we got to see the Lumineth Aurelon Sentinels, aka the new High Elf Archers, as well as the Stone Mage, the Alarith Stone Mage, which I have opinions, and the hint at what is to come for Psychic Awakening 8. But we will get to that. I don't want to spoil it too early.
Indeed. So, House of Blades. It turns out Escher have the ability to basically be necromancers somehow. Because they can raise the dead with their Death Maidens, which are Eschers that return to life through vile science in order to lend their deadly services to their gangs once more. So
yeah.
How? I'm like, how? This would be curious to see.
Rejuvenats are a thing.
I mean, I know the Iron Hands have got, like, the keys of hell, which can, turn people into cyborg zombies. But I'm curious to see how they're going to explain how the Eschers have it.
I mean, between the Drukhari and... my bet is it might even... If I were to guess, it would probably be something to do with the Drukhari.
Probably.
Who would probably be able
imported tech or something, I don't know.
Well, the homunculus covens don't share, but I could imagine one of them deciding to run experiments to see what their works could do inside such a twisted and anarchic place like Necromunda, and it then leading on to the creation of the Banshees, and they were unable to take it all away, or they died and they couldn't get back to resurrect, or whatever. Also, they have archers.
Yep, and trappers, it looks like, as well.
Yeah, so these are the wild runners, or you still say wild the same way, whether it's an I or a Y, I think.
Yeah.
Actual flipping archers in the 41st Millennium. It looks like they've got poison-tipped arrows, which makes a lot of sense because it's Necromunda. And these look really cool, and I think if you are someone who particularly is an AOS player and wants to run an army of Wood Elf archers, maybe, and mix them up to be a bit more Cities of Sigmar-y, then you could have these sort of strongly built human archers to go alongside your Cities of Sigmar army. And they're not that high-tech, to be fair. Like, they've got poison-tipped arrows and fancy-looking bows, but none of them carry guns or anything that would look out of place aside from the breathing masks.
Well, apart from the one on the top right, it looks like she's carrying a gun. Like in a holster.
That looks like a pair of scissors, I'll be honest.
On the other side. The holster.
Yeah, there are the odd pistolier inside, but not on foot. So, yeah, maybe. But it's an interesting idea to use the parts. Even if you don't use the model themselves, to use the parts for Age of Sigmar armies, I could certainly see. They also talk about something called phalanxes, or phalanx, if you prefer.
Phalanx the cats, yes. Yes, insert your jokes here.
Insert joke there, yes.
These weird little cat lizard things, which have about 2 poses between them.
They remind me actually a lot of, I don't know, I'm AOSing up again, the Stormcast Gryph-hounds, where you've got 3 different poses in a pack of 6, and they repeated themselves over and over, and you could mix and match the heads between each set.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll work a little bit like that, where you've got a few poses for the bodies, a few head variants, and you can mix and match them.
Possibly. I mean, it looks like we've got at least 3 head variants between them.
Yeah, and they've also talked about the idea of the Underhive Informant, a series of Necromunda previews that was due to start the following day. Now, I'm going to go and check whether it actually did, because if it did, I completely missed it. Yes, they did. So we'll follow it up. Actually, this is a good point. So it's a monthly series, and it talks about an individual called G122, the captain of the Precinct Fortress, to talk about the criminal chemists with bows and whips and all that lovely stuff. And they train the phalanxes, which are venomous cats. Venom cats is their official name. And they've also got Escher champions called matriarchs, who have got really, really long whips and needle pistols and mohawks and face gas masks that look like faces, sawn-off shotguns, power hammers, shock whips, all sorts of stuff. And it also comes with some rules previews as well. And they even have a new unit called the Chem Matron, who seems to be carrying a syringer, pistol, and a giant pile of chems on their back. However, it's not just Escher who's getting some fun new stuff. House Cawdor is actually getting an extra reinforcement, seemingly a legendary unit by the name of Rattus Tatterskin, a rat whisperer, rat whisper in ear person. He's got a heavy stubber. So he's got a noose around his neck, rats on his head, candles on his shoulder, a massive heavy stubber, blunderbuss stabby McJib, and he looks quite cool. Not my favourite. But if you are one of the more law-aligned people and you prefer to work with the Palanite Enforcers, then you are getting access to Scrutinator Primus Servalen, or Servalen, or however you say it. She is a blank, which is very interesting. And she has got herself a pistol, a torch of some sort, 2 head options, and her own personal Cybermastiff, KB88.
Nice. We always need some more good boys in the Underhive.
Quite so. So yes, Necromunda is getting a bunch of things going on, which is lovely to see. Shows that Necromunda is still pushing along, and it makes me think that House Cawdor will probably be the next one to get reinforced with a book like House of Blades and House of Chains.
What were the 4 books? Because the 4 books were House of Chains, House of Blades. One of them was House of Artifice, which was Van Saar.
I don't remember the name of Cawdor's.
Was it House of Iron? Because if it was House of Iron, that would be Orlok then.
It might be, actually, yeah. Maybe it was Orlok. I just assumed that Cawdor would be next because of Ratus, but it was revealed and I've just forgotten. So yes, comments, help, you know your drill.
Ironically, they might actually put the rules for Ratatataskin in the Escher book, just like, how with the Goliath book you had the rules for the Ogre and Slave gangs. They might do it that way, who knows?
Maybe, we'll see.
I assume you want to talk about the Daughters of Cain for Underworlds now.
Yes, I do. So this is Morgwaith's Blade Coven, a new Underworlds warband for the Daughters of Cain, who are my primary AOS army. I think they're certainly my joint large. No, they're smaller than my Stormcast army, but they're my favourite army because they're elves. And they're getting an Underworlds warband with 2 Witch Elves, a Sister of Slaughter, a Bloodstalker, and a Hag Queen. And oh my goodness, that Hag Queen is amazing. I don't know really what else I need to say, because the Hag Queen and Slaughter Queen model from the Cauldron of Blood are nice, but they are what they are. This model is gorgeous. I love this model, and I'm buying this warband even if I never play Underworld, just to have her. Even if I have to pay the points for the rubbish coven of rubbishness, because they will be rubbish, just to have that miniature, and I'll use her as my Hag Queen instead of a normal one, even if she plays by the normal Hag Queen rules. She's that cool. I love this miniature, and yeah, I just hope that they're not made of the sort of naff plastic that my Gloomspite warband were made from, Zarbag's Gits, because they had this rubbish yellowy plastic, and it just was nowhere near as good as the standard grey plastic, so hopefully they're in proper grey plastic.
It'll be rubbish red plastic instead.
Probably it will be, which will be really disappointing because I don't like working with that stuff. But at the same time, it's a lovely miniature. They painted it to look really, really good, and I want it, so job done. Titanicus, there's not a lot to say here, really, aside from new knights, new book.
They look adorable.
They look good, and there's going to be new battle standards for knightly houses inside the Riser book. So if you are a knights person in particular, then you're going to have some fun with that, I guess.
Yep. Also, I apologise for all the coughing. Sorry, I'm just not very well.
No, I totally understand. I was recovering. I was off ill.
It's not Steve Carino before anyone asks.
No, I was off ill for a week or so, and I wasn't that either, but it was not pleasant. So both of us have had our bouts, to be honest. I'm over it now, and Ram's has got his own battles to fight now with whatever he's got. Noggle, be nice. We need a Remleiz. Right. Moving on swiftly, we have the Auralan Warden, Sentinels, the Wardens of the Spearmen, the Sentinels, the Lumineth Archers, and they're good. I do like them. They're a really nice update to the High Elf Archers. They look very, very shiny. I don't know why they've got 3 bowstrings on the top and only 1 on the bottom. I'm a bit confused by that. But they look very good. And as a success...
Rule of cool, I assume.
Oh yeah, it'll be rule of cool. But as successors to High Elf Archers, maybe they'll have alternate firing modes depending on how many strings they knock, which will allow them to fire faster, but that will be ripping off the Namati, so I don't know. Either way, cool looking miniatures, and of course they've got fancy pointy hats, because of course they do. And so...
There's also the Elf Earthbender.
Yeah, the Alarith Stone Mage. Rest in peace anyone who doesn't use foam boxes. good grief. This miniature is so...
Yeah.
Like, I thought the Eidolon was finicky, but it's balanced on its base on a teeny rock with a lot of bigger rocks on top, then a pillar joined to a seat by a teeny tiny join that they're then sat on. I feel like you could have done away with the floating rocks at the bottom and just had them be sat on the stone on the pillar, and they'd have been fine. I feel like this is them kind of just showing off a little bit at this point. It looks lovely, but good grief, it's going to be fun to move.
The ironic thing is, it's probably still more stable than Celestine.
Yeah, Celestine is definitely the gold standard for hard-to-move models.
Considering that's balanced on like a very, 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 very thin and very long piece of plastic as opposed to a small yet thin piece of plastic.
Very true. But it seems like there's some cool rules going with them, so they can buff nearby units and also have gravity magic, which will be nice. So I will probably end up using one, though I'm not sure about that hat.
Yeah, I'm getting very much a Hashut feel from that.
Well, Teclis' symbol is the moon. It always has been, and they did actually do a proper article on Teclis.
I understand that, but it doesn't look like a crescent moon. It looks like cow horns.
Yeah, a little bit, and especially with the Spirit of Hish that comes with Teclis, they have really leaned into the crescent moon horns a lot. But that said, the Lumineth range still look lovely. I'm still absolutely buying it, and even if I only go Spearman, Cavalry, Light of Eltharion, and a couple of other units, I'm certainly going to buy a good chunk of them, regardless of which units it actually ends up being.
Fair enough.
And then finally,
arguably the biggest reveal of this announcement.
Yes, the sneakiest little reveal that snuck under, nobody's radar because everyone saw it, but they hit it right at the bottom, and it's Fabius Bile.
Yep. I mean, considering they're saying, who is the Spider? And everyone knows, the Spider was Fabius Bile's nickname because of his chirurgeon.
Yeah, and then you have the backpack.
The purple backpack, the flesh coat, the Cyclops Needler in his hand. Yeah, it's Fabius Bile.
And then they paired him with an assistant who's got bolts all over them and is doing some form of, I assume, gene seed extraction on a Primaris Marine.
Yep.
Well, it looks like we're finally going to tinker with the idea of Chaos Primaris, at the very least, on a lore level. I don't know if we'll see them in game, but on a lore level, we're now going to start playing with Chaos Primaris.
That's going to be very interesting.
Or we're going to see Super Glandhounds. That's the other option.
Ooh, even better.
Because is this individual probably a Glandhound or just an assistant? Because I don't know the description of the Glandhounds.
I think it's just one of the... No, it's not a Glandhound, because in the Bile novels, there was the Glandhounds who was his warriors, and there was also the little homunculus assistant things, not confused with, Drukari homunculus, actual, vat-grown creation homunculi type thing.
Right.
As in, the dictionary definition of a homunculus.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly how this shakes out and what they decide to do. And I also am interested in, I'm guessing it's going to be against Space Marines, judging by the assistant. But Psychic Awakening 8 is believed to be known, I don't know if they officially confirmed it in the promo video, as War of the Spider. That's certainly the name that's been going around all the rumour mill people, is War of the Spider. Mm-hmm. We will see if that puts him against Astartes or against... The Eldari are the other most likely opponents. They're the sort of second to Astartes. The Eldari are probably the next most likely opponents for Bile, but that would give them two.
Considering in the Bile novels, the Eldari were playing a huge part, generally in regards to the whole King of Feathers prophecy and all that with the Harlequins trying to do. It might tie in with that potentially.
It might, especially with the Bile third novel being about to drop or having just dropped, Manflayer.
It's not out yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it is, but I know it's not far off. The only reason I'm inclined to say that it's against the Imperium is because of this assistant, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Also, this is the second Psychic Awakening special character they've revealed through snapshots and an assistant.
Oh, yeah.
Because they did it for Ghazgkull as well, which I find interesting.
Speaking of which, they actually revealed Ghazgkull's model.
Right, so that's GAMA in the books. Probably the next most likely place to go would be to, well, I've just mentioned him, Ghazgkull. So Psychic Awakening 6 is probably going on pre-order this weekend as we're recording. I will be on pre-order by now, probably, I'm guessing. And they decided to finally show us both the backstory and the miniatures for a certain pair of named characters. Just as soon as I can remember which article they're in, because I can't find the bleeding thing.
We finally got a decent look at the new Ghazgkull Thraka, thank God, and he looks like a very big chunky boy.
Yeah, obviously we haven't seen him...
the exact same pose of the Dark Vengeance Hell Brute.
Yes, it is, but if you didn't know that, you'd be forgiven for not noticing.
Yeah.
Because they've made it look somewhat different, with him being with one foot up on a raised pillar, and obviously all the top bits and bobs. And they've also said the head can be switched around, and I'm wondering whether the stone pillar and that back steel plate, if you can swerve the miniature so that its right foot is on the steel plate and the left foot is on the ground instead. Because I really want to try and tinker with this Ghazgkull miniature, because I'm a tinkerer at heart. I can tinker with my Shadow Sun for all the pain it caused me. And I really do want to try and fiddle with the new Ghazgkull. But I will say the one thing they have done for Ghazgkull is they have made him suitably imposing. Because you see him in the photo underneath next to an orc knob, and the orc knob is up to his knee. His knee, for goodness sake. This Ghazgkull is massive, and as he should be. He's basically gone full Prime Orc at this point.
I wouldn't go that far, considering, Prime Orc size was close to being the size of an Imperial Knight.
Okay, point taken, maybe not full Prime Orc, but certainly...
He's on his way.
Certainly on the way. But they actually also decided to spring a slight... They slightly spoiled it, but a slight surprise on us in the form of a new Primaris Ragnar Blackmane as well. And boy howdy, Ragnar got one heck of an upgrade.
I will just say, I fucking called it. Of the Space Wolves getting an upgrade, I fucking called it to be Ragnar.
I think most of us called it because Logan got the Santa Sleigh last time out, and Bjorn got an upgrade last time out, and Niall's not that old, and Arjak's not that old. I think the odds of it being anyone other than Ragnar were quite low, but
I mean, it could have been Crom Dragon Gaze.
He's younger than Canis Wolfborn and all the others. Like, he's second youngest, because he's from Tooth and Claw, I think. No, not Tooth and Claw. The one that put the Space Wolves against Orcs in 7th edition. What was it called?
Sanctus Reach.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah, so he's from that. So he's actually quite young. But they really have done a brilliant job of Ragnar Blackmane. Like, he still evidently is Ragnar Blackmane, but he's now got an actual action pose. He looks like a badass. And, yeah, approve. Absolutely. I don't like Space Wolves, but I still approve. However, there is a caveat that comes with these new miniatures, and that's why and how we got them.
Oh, yeah.
So, the backstory to Psychic Awakening 6 is Ragnar is on a secret-ish mission to hunt down Ghazgkull. And he went after him, and he found him, and they had a fight. So, put up stupid little metal Ragnar against stupid old metal Ghazgkull. Not that stupid, I love that miniature. They had a smashy fight, and Ghazgkull absolutely shattered him. He took his arm, he broke his neck, he battered his armour into pieces, and the only way for Ragnar to survive was to go Primaris. Great. Awesome. Good. That is exactly what should happen, because Ghazgkull is a monster.
Yep.
And yet, the reason Ghazgkull now looks as chunky as he does has nothing to do with the fact that he's just fought a lot and is huge. No. Ragnar chopped his head off. Ragnar Blackmane killed Ghazgkull Thraka.
I do want to point out, orcs can survive decapitation.
And they did. They took the remains to Mad Dog Grosnick and they sorted it all out. However, taking aside the fact that orcs can survive decapitation, Ragnar managed to beat Ghazgkull in a fight. Sort of. It was a sort of no-score draw.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Ragnar Blackmane should not be able to kill Ghazgkull Thraka, especially without Primaris upgrades. He shouldn't. He's good, he's really good, but he's not that good.
I mean, in fairness, you could chalk up just to it being a lucky blow.
And I hope they do sell it as luck, because if Ragnar basically just sort of went for it, if Ghazgkull's like looming over in sort of a Hail Mary, sort of like last gasp gloating smash, and Ragnar just lunges with Frostfang and takes his head, fine. But if Ragnar manages to get battered into pulp, have his neck snapped, and somehow manage to beat Ghazgkull down enough to take his head, then they have really, really buried Ghazgkull quite badly there. That he managed to lose his head to a broken Space Wolf.
Yeah.
So we'll just see how they sell that one. That said, it was worth it because my god, new Ghazgkull is monstrous and I want it, and I don't care if the country goes into lockdown. I'm getting it. I'm sorry, I just am. And they're also suggesting, the internet is suggesting this may end up being a box game. Now, I'm not opposed to that because an extra way to get access to particularly Nobs and Mega Nobs and Grots to go with Makari would be lovely, just to pool those resources together and have an Orc Infantry box set going around that you can split with your Space Wolf friend or any other Astartes friend, really, because all Space Marines look alike these days.
Yeah.
There's some really good stuff there if they decide to go down that route. Will they? We don't know. But I would not be opposed to it. Right, where do we go next? There was a short story for Psychic Awakening 7 where we had a super radioactive Skitarius, which was an interesting thing. I'm not really sure where they're going with it, but I'm interested where it goes in Engine War, if anywhere. We had also got... this is interesting. The next Siege of Terra novella. That's the next big reveal.
Oh, yes. Was it the Wrath of Magnus, whatever it's called? Is that what it's called?
Fury of Magnus, I think.
Wrath, Fury, same thing.
Yeah, Wrath of Magnus was the end of
Siege
Storm.
of Fenris.
Warzone Fenris, yeah.
Wrath of Magnus, Fury of Magnus, same fucking thing, let's be honest.
Yes, so Fury of Magnus is essentially Magnus' story during the Siege of Terra. They've given it to Graham McNeil, again. He also wrote Sons of the Selenar, and he's after the last piece of his soul, which we the viewer, know has been shoved into Revu Lavada by Malkador to form Janus. And it's interesting that they're still playing with Magnus's loyalty here. Nick Kime, in his little summary, talks about the fact that he has to figure out whose side he's on. And the blurb goes on to say he must overcome the defenses and face the being whom he loves and hates with equal fervor, the Emperor. That conversation, if they have a conversation, I want that conversation to happen. I want Magnus and the Emperor one last time to have a chat. And I want the Emperor to be such a expletive to Magnus that Magnus has his reason to go. Because Magnus's fall was sort of by force. But if he's now going to get a chance to talk to the Emperor and have a chance to flip one last time, how are they going to push him?
It's certainly going to be interesting and see if he can actually do it well. Because there's such high expectations for such a scene to take place that he's going to work very hard to make sure it actually meets expectations.
Yeah, and I do... obviously, I trust Graham McNeil. Graham McNeil is a dab hand at writing good fiction. But this stuff is hard. And if he can pull it off, especially if he can tie together the thread of, well, what happened when Magnus found out that Horus ordered the execution? What happens when he realizes about the Grey Knights? What happens when X? What happens when Y? Because Magnus and Russ still hate each other. Magnus still hates the Space Wolves for what they did to him on Prospero 11,000 years later. If it was all Horus's fault and the Emperor has a chance to tell him that, what's Magnus going to think? What's Russ going to have to do to cheese him off again? Because Russ isn't even here. He's like half dead in some forgotten system half the way across the galaxy because he went and fought horrors like a muppet. So
And had to be bailed out by Corvus Corax.
Quite. That tells you everything you need to know. So I don't know where they're going with this, but I really, really, really want to know. Also, I love the fact that in the cover art, he seems to be basically the Thousand Suns at his thigh. He's just transformed himself to be super massive as he's blasted a hole in the Imperial Palace. I like that image.
Be interesting to see when he finds out, like, I want the last piece of my soul. It's not here, it's inside Janus. Well, where's Janus? He's on Titan. What? And Titan's in the warp. What?
What? Yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun... If they go to have that conversation, if they have it, I am so here for it. So here for it. Right. What else have we had? Yes. So you already will have known this for Age of Sigmar. The Seraphon are back. We've had some rule previews for them, and they're on pre-order at the moment. Sorry, I should have said earlier about Psychic Awakening 6. That will be next week's pre-order, so it'll be on pre-order, is what I think I should have said. Yeah, so in terms of, as I said, pre-orders that are starting for this week are going to be Seraphon Battle Tome, start collecting Skink, Gloomspite, and Daughters of Cain. I want that Daughters box because it's basically a cauldron and some cheap blood sisters. Yes, please. And the Sisters of Battle are getting their full range finally released. So the Repentia, Seraphim, Immolator, Rhino, Canoness, Imagifier, Dialogus, and the Battle Sanctum are all either about to come out or are now on shelves and available if you want them. So the Sisters range is now fully out, fully ready, which is very good to see.
Indeed it is. I'm still absolutely confused why the Repentia have interface nodes for power armor, though. That still confuses me.
Because they were sisters before, so they
No, I mean, like,
armor.
considering, like, the interface nodes are linked to a black carapace in Space Marines.
Yeah, I haven't read the Codex, so I can't exactly know the details, I'm afraid. I should know, but I don't, which is kind of bad of me. What else have we had? Oh, this. The reveal of Warhammer Crime, so the first look at the...
Oh, yeah.
So we now know that all of Warhammer Crime is being set on the same planet, Varangantua, a decaying urban hellscape. And they're all going to be set on this one planet. So the first book is Bloodlines by Chris Raitt, which looks so like a not Warhammer novel. Like, if you took the Warhammer logo off the front, I would have no idea this was a Warhammer novel. It looks nothing like one. And that's probably a good thing, because it marks it as different to standard 40k fiction. Because you've got this towering spire that's then on fire seemingly at the base, and this lone Inquisitor, Probator, whatever figure at the front, and it's like, oh, yes. Yeah. It's a fantastic piece of artwork. We're also getting a few other bits and bobs. So a novel, that's the novel, and there's an audio drama called Dredge Runners by Alec Worley, which is going to be followed up by a couple of short story anthology, No Good Men, which is 7 books, and Flesh and Steel by Guy Haley, which is a combination of Probator and Mechanicus combination to sort of cross the territories of Varangantua. So that sounds like a really interesting thing, and it's a really brave move to contextualize all of Warhammer Crime, the entire franchise, to one planet. Because all the authors, possibly, are going to have to talk to each other and storyboard all of the things so they don't break the, they might be so vast in this planet they don't have to talk to each other, but could be interesting nonetheless. Definitely. Right, where was I now? Sorry, I keep losing my place. Is there anything else that is coming? Oh, goodness grief. How did I forget this? Yes, so if you're a Horus Heresy person, then you can look forward to, well, if you're a Dark Angels Horus Heresy person, sorry, I need to be more clear. You can look forward to the Deathwing Companions. I think that's their official name. Yes, Deathwing Companions, which are essentially not quite Lion's personal guard, but they're similar to Lion's personal guard in that they're the personal command squad guardians of any officer of the Dark Angels, which is very interesting. And you can see the mix of the black and white armors, because those who don't know the story of the Deathwing gained the white bone armor after a group of Deathwing, I believe, were overrun on a Space Hulk. And that was when the Dark Angels changed the colour of the Deathwing's armor from green to white. So it'll be interesting to explain why they've got the white armor here sort of mixed in with the black. It says here that the bone white armor is due to their selfless devotion, but why white? Why would you give white as a symbol of devotion to an army of companions who wear black? Which doesn't quite add up to the whole sacrifice on a Space Hulk story that we know, but it could be that the chapter...
Well, it wasn't a Space Hulk, it was on a recruiting world.
Oh, yes, sorry, you're right. But it'll be interesting to go from why the Legion had white to then the chapter abandoning that colour scheme, because they went from black to green, so maybe they abandoned the whole old Legion colours and just got rid of it all, and then decided, they used to do this, we can actually call back to this and honour that in a new way with the updated story. We'll see exactly what's going on. They've got unique war gear, so their shield gives them an invuln against shooting, a slightly worse one in melee, and they can also deploy their shields to get an entire squad an invulnerable save off of one shield, and an initiative penalty for any enemies that fight them, which is a really interesting idea and allows you to have a mix of models in your unit. At the time of the heresy, the Deathwing were known as Line Breakers, which is a not dissimilar thing to what they do now. They turn up, they smash. So they get bonuses when challenging, if you remember the challenge mechanic. So, yeah, plenty there for your Dark Angels people in the road to Thramas. Night Lords players are thinking, where's the rest of it for us? Or the Alpha Legion might be saying there were... Oh, not the Alpha Legion, they're not in this one. But there's a lot coming for the Dark Angels, and I'm just wondering when we get the Lion now.
Either before or after AdeptiCon.
Well, yes, because they're about the only two left at this point.
I mean, we do know we are going to get an Emperor model at some point.
Did they say that?
It was mentioned in Constantine Valdor's rules. Like, he must be...
Oh, yes! Yes, you're right. I remember now. You are right.
Considering so, he must be the leader of your custodian army unless the Emperor of Mankind is present.
Something like that, yes. So, yeah, we do know the Emperor is coming rules-wise, so we'll see. But, yes,
He'll be in the very last book for the Siege of Terror, let's be honest.
Probably. Is there anything else? Janezar and Drazhar and the Incubi and Howling Banshees are now available generally. I think we might have talked about that on the last show. It's hard to keep track of when we said what. And I think, despite all the hopefully edited out collection dramas we've had, I think that's the news.
Did we mention Saturnine?
Oh, yes, Saturnine is also coming out alongside the Sisters of Battle this week. I forgot I did try to mention that and then forgot. So yes, Saturnine is now on its way out for general release if you are not Remleiz with your agents and you missed it.
Oh, speaking of these Siege of Terror limited editions, I managed to get the Horus Rising limited edition, the one from Warhammer World, thanks to Snipe and Whip. And one thing that really annoys me about this book, it doesn't match the others. It's the wrong shade of brown. Because the other books are like in this chocolate brown colour, this one's like in a really dark mahogany. And it's like, oh god, it's going to look really annoying on the shelf to get because they don't fucking match.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a fucking gorgeous book. Apparently they had to go about 7 attempts to try and get the fucking book because it sold out in the first 2 minutes. Black Friday style.
Yes, I did hear about
as
that.
I mentioned last episode.
But yes, good to see you finally got it. And I wonder, did they say they were going to change it, to make it fit better with the modern heresy canon, or is it staying exactly the same?
I think it's just the reprint of the book, just in a new cover.
Yeah, just obviously now with the whole Sanguinius' hair and other things, that it might have decided to retcon a few things from Horus Rising to match it.
I have no idea.
No, I doubt it. It's just I'd be curious to see if at some point they do that and just sort of match things up.
I'm more curious if at some point they'll do False Gods and Galaxy and Flames in the style. Because that's like the opening trilogy.
I feel that they will.
if they do keep it in the same if they do it in the same coloration as the Horus Rising version, I won't mind as much things. Okay, so the trilogy's one color and the end, the end of the series is another color. Fine, I can accept that.
Yeah, you could arguably do it all the way up to 5, couldn't you? You could probably do it all the way up to 5 and stop at Fulgrim. Because Flight of the Eisenstein and Fulgrim are kind of considered as part of the opening moves, same as the first 3 are. You might be able to get away with it up to 5, but after that, everything diverges.
Yeah.
But we shall see. Has there been anything else in the news that I need to talk about? I don't think so. So, The Lion.
Also, I did manage to get a copy of the Lionel Johnson book. I haven't finished yet, but there are a few things that made me, raise my eyebrow and go, huh? Like, okay, so for context, it seems like the story takes place before Nicaea. This was important to point out because the Dark Angels have got their librarians still running around. In their blue armour and all that, okay? Yet, not only does the Legion have chaplains, they're called interrogator chaplains.
Okay.
I was always under the impression that the interrogator they took the mantle of interrogator chaplain after the whole, hunt for the fallen began.
Okay.
It's like, what? I'm sure there's probably a book somewhere in the Horus Heresy series that mentioned it earlier that I missed. I'll be honest in that, guy. I probably have missed it at some point, because it's been so many years since I read any of the fucking Dark Angels books for the Horus Heresy. It just strikes me as a bit weird, is all.
Yeah, definitely different.
Yeah. Oh, but there was one thing, right at the beginning, I will actually read it, because it's quite a short thing, but it talks about the Emperor's true form and how the Lion can see the Emperor's true form.
What?
Where is it? Da-da-da.
The Emperor's what? True? As in, like, his psychic aura? What?
No,
his ghost spirit form? What? Hang on.
Let's explain. What is it? Because Lion mentions about how when his other brothers looked upon the Emperor, their descriptions were always vague. Never beholden to detail. What colour were his eyes? How tall was he? What mark, if any, did he have on his skin? Blah, blah, blah. And when the Lion saw him, not only were they described as being very much alike as father and son, where is this? Yes. To the Lion, the Emperor appeared as a hooded figure armoured in emerald plate, inscrutable with gilt and filigree, and shrouded in robes of gold, wreathed in obscuring light. Everything his brothers described was a mask, only the Lion saw the truth.
Huh.
So,
I mean, that does account for all the inconsistencies in the description of the Emperor across all the Primarch Discovery stories, I guess. Saying that they didn't quite see it right because whatever, but why of all people would it be the Lion?
Firstborn?
Who would see it? Firstborn, but certainly not the most perceptive.
No, again, if it's firstborn, he might just have a special connection in that regard.
If you want to play with that, I suppose you could.
It makes as much sense as anything else, from a storyline perspective.
Yeah, it makes as much sense as everything else. That is interesting, but the Emperor's true form is in green. Not gold armour, green armour.
Green armour with gold robes. So green armour, I wonder if this is why the Dark Angels turned green afterwards.
Even though Lion would have never passed this information on to the Dark Angels in the first place.
I know, but still...
Okay, interesting. So, aside from slight inconsistencies and questionable opinions of the Lion, how's it going?
Very slow start, I will admit. I mean, I'm only about halfway through. Very slow start, but it's starting to pick up, so I'm not going to give a final opinion on it just yet, because it is starting to get better. I mean, it's about on par as any of the other Primarch novels, or any of the Primarch novels that aren't Angron, Lorgar, or Fulgrim, or Perturabo.
Yeah, so anything that isn't God tier or trash tier.
Yeah.
That's
middle of the road,
good enough,
middle of the
I
road
guess.
so far.
That's acceptable, I suppose, and it kind of sums the Lion up perfectly. But yeah, that's...
I mean, no memes about eating sand yet or anything, considering it's written by David Gaiman, but hey.
I got started on Empire of Lies because it was National Reading Week. Maybe the other week, but they were doing a reading thing at school, so I got a chance to read the first chapter. Really, really good. I don't know. It's the first chapter, so I think I can say this without considering it too much into spoiler territory. So the book.
You cut out for me there. All I heard was I didn't. That's all I heard.
Yeah, I didn't get much. I read the first chapter. I don't consider it too much spoiler territory because realistically, it's the first chapter. You can read it.
It's first chapter. It's fine.
So the book opens with Farsight and some of the 8. Obviously, not all of the 8. The 8 don't exist yet. Fighting against orcs with no battle suits in melee.
What?
This is Farsight putting the way
Is this
of the
a dream?
This is Farsight putting the way of the short blade into practice.
Are they at least in Firecast
armor?
armor?
Yeah, they're in like some form of armor, but they're not.
Thank God for that. I thought they were going to be just running around just, like jeans and a t-shirt with a fucking knife going, come on, you fucking
it's just, they've got guns as well, but it's just about showing how Farsight is adapting the Book of the Beast, because he considers the orcs to be the biggest problem for the new enclaves. They haven't broken away yet, but he considers the orcs the biggest problem, not the humans, because the Imperium will take ages to turn up and has been beaten before in the Mines of the Tau. So they're not worried about the Imperium, they're worried about the orcs, and Farsight wants to deal with them, and he knows that they're going to have to fight them up close. So he's testing the way of the short blade, except he's not actually fighting orcs.
It's all holograms?
Not quite. It's mock-up orcs made by Ovesa to mimic them.
Right, so kind of like the Crute Servitors in a way.
Kind of, I guess. Like, they still have orcish-like weapons and orcish-like guns and orcish-like accuracy, but they're not actual physical orcs. It's a simulation being run by Ovesa. But they still get hurt, they still fight properly, and eventually, partway through, they transition out of combat armor into their battle suits and pick up the fight with the fusion blades, the Onager Gauntlet, and the not Dawnblade, because it's not the Dawnblade yet, he hasn't got it yet, but he still has a sword.
Right.
And it's interesting that they reflect on the experience, and Farsight's like, that didn't feel like fighting orcs. One, they didn't smell like them, so Ovesa, please fix that. But two, they were ruminating on the unpredictability of the orcs and how, no matter how you simulate fighting them, you can't ever truly fight them because they've always got some other thing up their sleeve that they never really understand. And it's a really interesting conversation. The Cold Star, its AI from the first book, has been ported into Farsight's battlesuit, and it's quite well spoken and smug and kind of reminds Farsight of Shadow Sun, which is a nice touch. It really interested me. I can't summarize the whole thing, and I won't summarize the whole thing, but the conversation that ends the chapter with Oshova and Koro Limal Teng, the admiral of the fleet, is genuinely hilarious because Limal Teng is a bit of a jackass to Farsight because they know each other so well. So that was really fun. Honestly, for a first chapter that I got to read for 10 minutes in the middle of a lesson because we had to drop everything and read, yeah, okay. I want to keep reading. And now I've got a week where I'm not in school due to a transition between placements, and I'm just going to plow through that thing so I'm ready to talk about it on the next show because I had one taste of it and I want more. I want more.
All right, calm down.
Sorry, it's been a long week and I've just had job interviews and I'm still getting over that. So, yeah, I want more of that novel. I really do. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it.
Also, I finally got round to finishing Mark of Faith.
Good. How was it?
Really good.
Good.
It's a really good novel.
Yeah, because it's Rachel Harrison, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, because I've read Severina Rain. Have you read Severina Rain?
I have not yet, no.
Well, I have, and I really liked Severina Rain. Even though it was a dead obvious plot twist, it was a really, really good read nonetheless, and I really enjoyed that, so I'm glad Mark of Faith was a hit as well.
I can also point out that, Thousand Sons Sorcerer does not just reverse the rubric at will.
Good.
Thank fuck for that. What basically happens, this is basically a spoiler for the very end of the book, but hey, never mind. The book's been out for a while now, so it doesn't matter. So basically, the Thousand Sun Sorcerer have been manipulating everything in the book, essentially. And the reason for doing so was so he could have an Inquisitor's interrogator, who's like an incredibly powerful psyker, who's now a cripple, to be used as a conduit for a ritual. And with this ritual, he basically intended to reverse the rubric on one Marine.
Which Ahriman has already done.
Yeah, just the one. Which is pretty much, his blood brother.
Of course.
And it's like this really big emotional thing, like when the sisters actually stop the ritual, and just before the rubric that's slowly being reversed, takes effect or whatever, the rubric just turns to look at the Thousand Sun Sorcerer and then just collapses, and the Sorcerer's like, no! I just wanted to hear his voice one more time. I was like, oh, that's tragic.
Fair. Yeah, and that's really good, that. And obviously we're not actually breaking the established canon, because John Friend showed Ahriman do it with Heliosidorus back in the Ahriman novel, so we're not actually treading any law-breaking ground, we're just doing it rather than this is the hero's journey, although he's really an anti-hero, going around doing his thing, just doing everything he can to do something. Now we've got a Thousand Sun Sorcerer who's saying, Ahriman did it. I can do it. And I know who I want to do it to. And it allows you to manipulate the reader and make you sympathise with the character. That's very good. That obviously it will come across a lot better in Rachel Harrison's own words. But yeah. Very good. That sounds very good. As a twist. Sadly, now it's kind of ruined me ever reading the book because I know the twist. But also, actually, we're talking about sisters and novels and stuff. Faith and Fire is being written entirely up in White Dwarf right now.
Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, it's a good novel, in fairness.
It is. So if you buy all of White Dwarf this year, you get the entire novel of Faith and Fire for free. If that's your thing.
I still need to read Hammer and Anvil, which is the one after that. Yeah. If you want a decent short story one, go for Heart and Soul. That's the one that features, Chaos Sisters.
Of course it does. But yeah, plenty of good literature out there, it seems. Whether it's Perceptive Primarchs, Orc Odors, or Sisters and sort of Thousand Suns feels. Good stuff. Good stuff. Right. Is there anything else we need to discuss, or are we ready to jump on to questions? I feel like we haven't been recording all that long with all the internet issues.
We probably haven't. It's probably going to be a very short episode in comparison, just because of all the combination of technical difficulties and sickness and having to disappear for long periods of time due to adverse effects to his new medication.
Yes. Sorry if I didn't really cover the gap very well, but I tried. We got a few questions, and there's not actually a huge amount, so we might actually have a chance to get through all of them, as long as we don't say the word of demonetization. So, first one we'll start with is one I think I do know the answer to. Have any of the Chaos Primarchs met one of the Chaos Gods?
Mortarion has.
Magnus has. Maybe not on purpose.
Because that was a big thing at the end of Buried Dagger. Literally, Mortarion looks into the warp and he's actually having a conversation directly with Nurgle.
Yeah, I knew Typhus had met Nurgle, but I haven't read Buried Dagger.
You should. It's a good book.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's James Swallow, is it?
It is, yes.
I thought it was. So yeah, that's a good one. It's good to know. And Magnus obviously had a lot of supposed chats with Tzeentch before his fall, and I assume they've had at least one conversation since. Right. Where do we want to go next? Okay. So, does the Emperor's ability to create Space Marines from full-grown adults, does it mean anything? Or is it just a canonical inconsistency? Because I don't know if they're referring to like Corferon and Luther here. It refers to the Emperor.
I think that's more in regards to the fact that around that period of time, genes, not only was Gene C more stable, the methods for implanting it were also much more advanced because everything just went to shit after the heresy. I think it's just more to do with that in that regard, because it's generally something that happens around pre or during the heresy, and after the heresy, nothing like that happens again.
Yeah, definitely. I've never seen a new version of like Corferon and Luther even.
Unless you want to count Lucas, who fucked like 12 women in a single night. But then again, it's a Space Wars, so Space Wars always have to be fucking special.
Right. I know I don't like Space Wars. Right, okay, here's an interesting question. In the Space Marines Codex, it mentions that, and I quote, most Space Marine chapters have a chapter master. Does that mean that there are chapters without chapter masters? And how would that actually even work?
The Iron Hands, they have the Iron Council.
They still have a senior representative who's their sort of de facto chapter master.
He is the de facto chapter master, but he is not actually officially a chapter master. He's just basically he's the head of the council.
Yeah, so sort of you have ruling councils who will sort of oversee everything, and sometimes you've got chapter masters who... Oh, sorry.
Then actually, I think it was the Nova Marines, or was it the White Consuls? It's one of the two. But they actually have two chapter masters.
Right.
Like one will always remain at the Fortress Monastery to defend it, and the other one will be leading the forces out in the field.
Right, okay, that's interesting. And obviously you've got chapters like the Death Spectres, whose chapter master is on the Shariax and thus essentially dead, and thus the chapter is run essentially by the Chief Librarian. And you sometimes get that crossover of Chief Librarian chapter master, like Sarpedon of the Soul Drinkers, for example. He was a mix of both.
Azariah Kyrus. Or the Blood Ravens.
Oh yes, Dawn of War, you're right.
Yep.
Right. So...
And sometimes it's even the Dreadnought. That's seen with the Blood Swords chapter.
Yeah, that happened
Their chapter master was a Dreadnought. We need to see that more often. It's like, who's our chapter master? Oh, it's this big fuck-off Leviathan Dreadnought. Hello.
It's interesting that Bjorn seemed to lose the post of Great Wolf after he died.
I mean, they probably just thought, fuck it, let him sleep.
Probably it was he just needed a nap. Maybe he was chapter master for a bit and then he needed too much nap, so they elected someone else. I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay, sticking with Space Wolves, actually, that's a good segue. How can the Space Wolves only be from Fenris, given that the Emperor's version, the Rout, came from Terra?
Okay, I've explained this multiple times.
Then for the benefit of the audience...
It's basically because, the original stock of Terran Space Wolf gene seed is a hell of a lot purer than the modern-day current Space Wolf gene seed, with the exception of Primaris Space Wolf gene seed, because that can go in any one other than Fenris. Look at the Wolfspear chapter, for example. But the point is, over the course of the centuries, the Space Wolf gene seed would mutate and degrade to such an extreme degree that basically only Fenrisians were capable of accepting it. I mean, look at what happened with the Wolf Brothers chapter. Like, okay, we're going to start a successor chapter. Oh no, they're pretty much all dead and we can't replenish our numbers. Fuck.
Quite.
Yeah. Some people have also mentioned that it's something to do with the implementation of the Canis Helix, even though the Canis Helix was always a part of the Space Wolves gene seed in some way or form. It might be due to the fact that they actually separated it and then it was re-added later, kind of thing. Like, when they drink from the cup of Wolfen, they take it there.
Yeah.
Because there's detail in Deliverance Lost when, Corvus Corax is going through all those samples of pure and untainted primogenetic material. Russ already had the canine DNA in his gene seed. Or his genetic material, rather. It was like 20% doggy.
Yeah, and there was also... Was there not, during the Battle of the Fang, the Thousand Sons completely butchered the Space Wolf gene seed research so that they can't create new successors from elsewhere? Because they were working on it, weren't they?
Sorry, all I heard was there not?
The Battle of the Fang. The Thousand Sons messed up the Space Wolf gene seed research.
Yeah, basically if I recall correctly, it was the Chief Wolf Priest was basically trying to find a cure for the Curse of the Wolfen and to make the gene seed more stable so they could actually make more successor chapters.
Yeah.
And then Magnus went, haha, no, fuck you, blam.
Quite. That's a good way of putting it.
Except an Australian accent.
Yes. Okay. Let's go here. Have the Tower ever encountered the Custodians? And then there's a follow-up of if so. I don't think they have, actually. because the talons of the Emperor were only
No, I don't think they have.
unleashed after the return of Guilliman. There were no they were, but there weren't custodes abroad before that point. And the Imperial response to the Tau in that time has essentially been zero. Like, what's their deals with it? Because the Tau...
I need to double check the Custodian Codex, because it might actually mention something about them encountering the Tau in that, to be honest.
I didn't see anything in Psychic Awakening 5 about Custodes being present, but then there were like no Space Marines in Psychic Awakening 5 anyway. So they wouldn't really have the difference. As for how they would react to Custodes, do they see them as like just Astartes, or would they realise that they're super Astartes and have different names for them? I don't know. I suspect they will, after maybe 2 engagements of watching a Custodian one-man army an entire Hunter Cadre, because they would. I think we'll see.
I mean, if they just saw one Custodian, they saw just one Custodian, they probably just think it's some elite Gayron Shah.
Because I don't know did the Tau have a word for Primaris either? I don't know if I know they've met Primaris, but I can't remember in War of Secrets if they had a special name for them yet.
I thought they'd just call them Gayron Shah, because, genetically engineered, human warrior caste, essentially.
Yeah, that is what they are. It's just, I don't know if they have a separate extra word now to describe in engagements. Are they fighting?
I know. It's Gayron Sharamaris. Gayron Shamaris, there we go.
Dear. Okay, this is an interesting debate. Could a case be argued that the defense of Rinnsworld was far greater than that of Armageddon, given that the Crimson Fist, alone with the local PDF, held off an Orc invasion the same, and I quote here, the same size as the one that hit Armageddon, without the support of several dozen chapters Imperial Guard Sisters of Battle? One caveat: the size of War Snagrod is not the same as the size of War Ghazgkull. Let's be realistic here. War Snagrod was huge, but it was not War Ghazgkull. Not even close. Certainly not War Ghazgkull Mark II. Good grief, no.
And can we also point out in regards to Armageddon, Yarrick and, a single regiment of, Imperial Guard and a bunch of hive gangs defending Hades' hive against pretty much all of Ghazgkull's army?
That too. That happened. Though you could argue that the defenders of Rinnsworld had no walls, no defences. The Fortress Monastery was blown up, and New Inn City was not set up for it. They didn't have the same defences as the Steel Legion did. You could argue. It's not the same.
Most hive cities, Jerry, aren't designed for defence in that way either.
Point taken. Though Armageddon had already been through at least one invasion, and 2 by the time of the return.
There's only ever been the 2 wars. There was never an invasion by a certain Primarch. That never happened.
Either time that it happened.
All I had was Eye of the Tiger for some reason. I don't know why.
I didn't say that.
This connection issue is a pain in the ass today. I'll say that now.
Yes, our apologies if it comes through in the edit.
I'll try and cut out all the gaps.
Yeah, we'll do what we can. So let's move on. So regarding demonic warp portals, couldn't a ship's warp drive open such a portal, allowing demons in, just as a Gellerfield could close one and stop any demons on the material side? Yes. Warp drives going wrong could rip open a portal into the Immaterium and let demons in. Yes.
I didn't hear the conversation while that was the answer.
Could a warp drive open a warp portal that could let demons in? Yeah. I think that's very well known. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Have there been any other, and I quote, zombie outbreaks in 40k not related to chaos? Because there was one in a Raven Guard book. Just want to know if there were more of them. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a Necromunda one. Because it's unclear whether the Necromunda Neuron Plague is the same as the Zombie Plague, even though they both turn people into zombies. It's still kind of out in that run. But yeah, the novel Back from the Dead is pretty much all about, a zombie outbreak in Necromunda, essentially, caused by Karloff Valois, who is basically a very powerful psyker.
Good.
Not necessarily... Even though like he's been called a heretic, he's not actually necessarily devoted to any of the Chaos Gods. He's just a very bad man.
Quite.
That being said, I do like that they've actually slightly retconned him. Instead of just being, a random psyker, he was now used to be the head of the Corpse Guild. And then, the Enforcers found out, oh shit, he's a psyker, get him.
That makes sense.
And that's why he fled down high.
And it makes sense that the Corpse Guild leader would have created a zombie apocalypse. Because, corpse harvesting, necromancy, it makes sense.
But the Neuron Plague was around long before him anyway, so there was always zombies walking around Necromunda. It's just that people don't actually know what caused it. There is some...
debate.
Some evidence some debate to suggest that it was actually caused by a Dark Age of Technology bioweapon.
Oh, good, because we need more of those.
I mean, in fairness, Necromunda has literally everything on it. I mean, there's literally Men of Iron still walking around on Necromunda that you can actually use in your gangs. Granted, they're very glitchy and half broken, but yeah, there's still Men of Iron walking around Necromunda. So let's remind ourselves what Necromunda actually has on it. So, for the side of Order, you've got, the Arbites, the Enforcers, the Necromunda Spies, Imperial Guard, and the PDF and the Imperial Fists and Sisters of Battle. And what else you got on there? Well, you've got Chaos Cults, Orcs, Gene Stealers, Mutants, Men of Iron. Bunch of mysterious monsters running around.
Yeah, that's...
And every form of life wants to kill you. Oh, and the Spew Shark as well. We had to mention that.
It's not a pleasant place to live. Let's just say that.
It's hell. It's hell. That world is hell. It's like Australia, but without the greenery.
Harsh.
Catachana's Australia with the greenery, and Necromancer's Australia without the greenery.
Still harsh. But hey, this question is about Chaos Primaris with the return of Fabius Bile. We discussed that very briefly. There was one about Empire of Lies. I've read already. That is a question asking about where Necrons are on tabletop. Because they want more stuff for Necrons. I get that, because they haven't been in Psychic...
on the shelf, probably.
I mean, there haven't been anything for them in Psychic Awakening, even as the antagonist yet, so we'll see if they get anything. Right. Okay, here we go. How does a Deathwatch Master decide to let a Marine enter the Deathwatch as a Black Shield? Is there certain extra checks? Do they have to be checked for, corruption or being tainted by chaos, etc.? Do the chapters outside know about Black Shields as a concept? Are the Inquisition involved in it? How does it work?
I'm pretty sure chapters outside of the Deathwatch know of Black Shields as a concept anyway, considering, most Marines that join the Deathwatch will go back to their parent chapters at some point anyway, because it's not necessarily a permanent post.
Unless you become a Dreadnought.
Well, yeah, or a Black Shield, but anyway, that's a different point entirely. From my understanding, a Black Shield, he can't, he doesn't just walk in through the door saying, hi, I'm one of you now. He has to petition the Watchmaster for membership. And generally it's considered a very rare occurrence for a Watchmaster to turn a Black Shield away because, hey, we have a fully experienced battle brother of the Adeptus Astartes who wants to join us as a permanent warrior, as a permanent member of staff. It's not really something you generally want to throw away at most times. Though I imagine that they'll go through various screening and processes from, with the chapter's chaplains and all that as well, just to make sure their spiritual purity.
Yeah, it's just obviously without... obviously a lot of chapters will send warriors to the Watch, and the Watch may be able to do a bit of background research in terms of who are they? Where did they come from? What is their combat record? With a Black Shield, they have no chapter. They have no references, if you like. I don't know.
Sorry, you cut out. I didn't get what we said.
Just obviously, warriors in a chapter have a chapter master who will probably recommend them. They'll have a record of combat history and so on and so forth. If you're a Black Shield, you have no references. What have you done? Who speaks for you? Who vouches for your capability as a member of the Watch? And so on. They don't have that sort of reasoning, I guess, for being taken on. I don't know.
I just always find it funny, like, just the mental image of, like, we got this kill team. On the kill team, you have a Dark Angel, and you have a Black Shield, but the Black Shield's actually a Fallen.
Yeah, that's probably happened.
So every now and again, the Dark Angel's just giving him the side eye, going, like, you seem familiar. I don't like you. I don't know why, but I don't like you. It's like, okay.
Are you sure you're not a space wolf? Because I don't like you. I shouldn't not like you this much.
I'm a wolf brother, I guess.
Who knows?
Brother, I've fallen. I can't get up. I knew it!
Dead joke. Dead joke.
I know, but it was appropriate.
Okay, I know Remleiz did a video on this, and I'm not sure if the others have, but is there a chance that the Chaos Gods are aspects of Chaos Undivided and that there was once a single entity in the warp made up of all of them? Apparently you've already done a video on that matter.
I did, yes. So that's why I'm not going to answer it. Watch the video.
yeah, in your case, watch the video. For me, possible? Yes. Likely? Maybe. I wouldn't want to put an odds on it. But it's certainly not outside the realms of possibility given how single-minded the gods are. But then, why are there then only 4? Did they then all turn on each other? Why are there only 4, 5, 6 left? It's a bit weird. So yes.
I mean, don't forget, you've also got all the minor Chaos Gods as well.
Yeah, that's true. So, what have we got? That is a Drakari question, so I don't need to answer it. What is Enkari? Because in fantasy they're a keeper of secrets, and in 40k they're a demon prince. And they should be the same thing across both. So what is Enkari?
I always got the impression that in old 40k lore, Enkari was a demon prince, but then they retconned him to being a keeper of secrets. Kind of like what they did with McCatchin, because McCatchin was originally a demon prince, and then it just retconned him to a Lord of Change.
Yeah, they did that. Yeah, they did, actually, you're right.
Funnily enough, McCatchin was actually a Lord of Change that became a demon prince. So that's a thing.
It's definitely a thing. Right, where are we going now? Okay, has the Emperor always been on the Golden Throne? Like, since Rogue Trader, has it always been the Emperor is on the Golden Throne? Or was he put there at some point later? Was there a retcon or a new edition that updated it to put the Emperor on the Golden Throne?
I mean, in the original Rogue Trader rulebook, there's artwork of the Emperor on the Golden Throne.
Well, that answers that then.
In fact, there's 2 pieces of art, one black and white, one in colour. The one in colour actually has one surrounded by the custodians.
Very nice.
And the black and white one looks like a piece of HR Giga work, because it looks very biomechanical.
Fair enough.
And then the Realm of Chaos books expanded basically the Emperor's backstory, essentially, in that.
And that was where the first Horus Heresy line came from, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Thought so. That is about, is there a book of pre-Emperor Vulcan? There isn't.
Yeah, the closest we have to pre-Emperor Vulcan is a short story which was literally the day the Emperor showed up and was talking to him, saying, like, so this is what's going to happen if you join, and take command of your legion. And Vulcan's like, yeah, but what if I don't want to do that? That's the closest we have. And that's that short story, Mercy of the Dragon. Fun, that also shows Vulcan's very first campaign with the Emperor, where he's fighting alongside the Emperor and Ferrus Manus. But not with his legion, he's fighting just as on his own with the Iron Hands. And then he ends up saving the little girl.
Haven't got there yet, I guess.
By literally shielding her from an exploding missile.
As you do, just Vulcan things.
So did you get what I said? 'Cause I think I cut out again.
No, throwing himself in front of a little girl, blocking missile, thus saving life. Yes, I did hear that.
He blocked a missile, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite impressive.
Good guy, Vulcan.
Good guy, Vulcan, indeed. Okay, this is an interesting thing that may just be a wiki error. In the Imperial Sniper's Armory on Lexicanum, there is a sniper rifle known as a Hellshot. It apparently fires an autocannon shell, and its role is to destroy equipment, light vehicles, and heavy infantry. Is this canon? And if so, who actually uses the flipping thing?
A hell shot.
Yeah, I don't recognise the name. Apparently it's a thing. Maybe it's an old thing that's been retconned out. I don't know. Because obviously the hell guns were the hotshot weapons of...
looking at the citation for that, it was something from the novel Redemption Corps. I've read that novel, but I don't actually remember that particular thing. But I think it has been like about a year or so since I read the book, so it's possible. I mean, at least it has a citation.
Yeah, that's 90% of the problem sometimes is finding a source.
Page 369, apparently. So, okay, it actually got a page number. Problem is my version of the novel...
And a page number? On a reference? Good grief, that's good.
I know. This is why you always lose Lexicon as a reference source as opposed to the wiki. I mean, considering at one point the wiki said that, the Emperor's Wolves chapter were a Space Wolf success, and it's like, no, mate. Considering the Space Wolves only had the one, and there was the Wolf Brothers, and couldn't make any more.
Yeah, mistakes get made. It's the way it goes. You've just got to remember, double check your sources, triple check your sources, cite your sources, and if someone goes and fiddles with it, change them back.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, one here. It's more of a Sigmar question, so hopefully this should be easy enough. Will we ever get Knights of Britannia in Age of Sigmar? They're the only cool fantasy army, in my opinion. Yeah, so the meme and actual true answer is the Flesh Eater Courts. The undead ghouls are now actually basically see themselves in the way that the Lords of Britannia were. So knightly feudal lords with their mounts, dealing with interlopers into their realms, and then feasting well on whatever else. In fact, they're just deluded cannibals and sort of undead, but not. And it's quite terrifying and also really kind of sad. However, if you want shiny, because I read through the thread and they want knights in shining armour, there actually aren't that many because the Empire Knights are gone. They were removed in Cities of Sigmar. And a lot of the Elven Cavalry, probably the one you're looking for is the Lumineth Cavalry. They're probably the nearest thing to knights in shining armour that you're actually going to get. Granted, they're elves, not humans, but probably you're looking at the Lumineth because big, chunky, medium cavalry, not quite heavy cavalry. Or if you just want to go big, super chunky, heavy cavalry, may I point you to the Stormcast Dracoth Cavalry. Yes, you may or may not like the Stormcast. If you're Zoran, you definitely don't like the faces. But they are gleaming, usually gold armour, riding around on giant dragon pseudo thingy jibs that shoot lightning out of their mouths. So probably I would say look at the Lumineth or look at the Stormcast. If you don't mind going a bit grimdark, you could look at Blood Knights and the Soulblight Vampires. Or you could look at the Cold One Knight for the Drakespawn of the Order Serpentis. You've got the Chaos Knights and the Varangard, who have been very expanded in Wrath of the Everchosen, so probably a good time to be looking at Slaves to Darkness.
You got those Bone Reaper Knights as well?
Yeah, they're quite good. They're not that good, the Cavaliers Death Riders, but they're there. And if you just want to go a bit nuts, you could also look at the Gore Grunters for the Iron Jaws, or you could even go over to Mournfang Cavalry if you really don't like having large armies. Right. Why do they keep buffing Tau? Because reasons. Not a gameplay person. I know they got buffed in Psycho Awakening 5, which I accidentally called Psycho Awakening 3 last episode. Sorry, I wasn't great at that show. But yeah, it does seem like Tau. Well, we'll have to see with all the tournament cancellations what happens and where Tau end up, but it's definitely a thing, and I'm aware of it, and I do feel bad. Right. Is there anything else that is not... Right. So this one, I might need to say a couple of times for Rem's benefit, just because it's quite long, but here we go. Do you think that the Eldari are potentially preparing to backstab humanity to use them as, and I quote, fuel for Iniad? If you think about it, air quote, Slaanesh was born of an entire galaxy chunk worth of thriving Eldari empire. In contrast, the surviving craft worlds are like a bunch of survival boats, now with a maimed reproductory cycle. Could it be that the Eldari are prepping mankind to use them to deal with chaos, and then backstab them and use them as sacrifices for their death god? For example, the Harlequin's misunderstanding when appearing in the middle of the Imperial Palace. That wasn't a misunderstanding, that was Eldred Ulthran. Might have been a tactical probing of the Imperial Palace's defences. It wasn't, it was Eldred Ulthran sending a message to the Emperor, never mind. Maybe they could have been checking how hard it would be to get to the Emperor. Well, yes, as part of the Star Child prophecy. As far as where this is going, basically, are the Eldar setting up and fattening humanity up as a sacrificial lamb for Iliad? No. They don't have enough power. They don't have enough soul power in humanity. There's no way they'd be able to fuel it. It would make an entirely new god if you sacrificed humanity, because they're a different species.
Yeah, considering that, I mean, Iliad is a god that appears to be intrinsically linked to the Eldari as opposed to the Chaos gods, which basically can be fueled by anybody. Because it seems like there's some gods that are intrinsically linked to a particular species, like, with Gork and Mork for, the Orcs, for example. Because, let's be honest, do we really see any instances of humanity, for example, worshipping Gork or Mork? And before anyone says to Diggers, they didn't actually worship Gork or Mork.
Yeah, and actually, if you want another example of the Chaos Gods taking interest in other races, sorry to come back to Empire of Lies, the prologue is essentially Tzeentch, a Tzeentchian demon ruminating on how it's going to screw with the Tau, whilst also noting that Khorne has his eye on Farsight.
Ooh.
And they actually lean into this by Farsight as he retreats from the simulation, saying, I kind of just want to thinking to himself, he kind of just wants to go back in. Sort of implying that Khorne is now in Farsight's head a little bit and driving him back into combat up close and personal. Whereas Tzeentch is set to try and cause the downfall of the entire Tau Empire because they're so young and naive and sort of...
Is this the same Tzeentchian demon from Crisis of Faith?
If it is, they don't mention it.
I would imagine it would be, because it'd be a way to tie them together. We got a recurring villain in a way.
Let me have a quick read of the prologue one more time.
One more time.
In the freezing depths of the void, a bubble of unreality became solid. The apparition was formed as nothing but thought and emotion, but it was real enough, and it was one of countless others. There were as many of its fellow incarnations as there were stars in the galaxy. Together, they formed a god. The entity it belonged to was not omniscient, so they're implying that Tzeentch doesn't know everything, but one part of Tzeentch will see something while another part tries to undo it or forget it, or something like that. It was a divine contradiction. This particular vantage point watched an exiled portion of itself take one new name, then another, and that talks about demons. And all these little portions were aspects of the Changer, and the Changer was all its constituent parts. They were one and the same. Yada, 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 yada. The demon that the vantage point observed had more free will than most. Exiled and cursed, it had chosen a long and difficult road to redemption that led through obscurity, frustration, and failure. Yet it had chosen its path wisely, buried itself deep in a thriving and dynamic empire, unremarkable in the greater scheme of things, yet ripe for corruption. The exile's demon had led it to a new source of soul fodder, one that was weak of spirit but collectively a powerhouse, a young and vibrant race rich with the potential to rise high, but also to fall into spectacular darkness. A house of cards, lavishly illustrated, yet ultimately just as delicate as any other. And it talks about the Changer saying how nice it would be to bring the Tau crashing down because they were built around obeying the Ethereals and trying to set up insurrection under the roots of the Tau to bring the entire thing crashing down, and just had to find a way to do it. And in the end, that ended up being, there was one whose destiny had caused to fork and fork again. This fractal path of causality spilled out, as pleasing as a kaleidoscope of light refracted through prisms. Through the contrarian's machinations, there was a traitor in the ranks, one who did the work of change without realizing it, and who harbored the sparks of corruption deep within. Better yet, there was one thread amongst the tapestry of fate that intersected with countless trillions of others. A warrior king, already a focal point of the young race's future. He was of interest to a rival deity, the Red God, the King of Skulls, reason enough to pull the strand in itself. With a few minor manipulations, each splitting beam would merge with the others into blinding light, then utter blackness. In its wake would come a new order, a tyranny that would see the entire eastern fringe bathed in blood and fire. With enough whispers, enough tragedy, and with a measure of power lent here and a bargain struck there, everything would lead to the same point. The damnation of an entire race. So Khorne's gone after Farsight, and Tzeentch has gone after the entire Tau.
Interesting.
Via the medium of Farsight, but it suggests, actually, that maybe this was the whole plan all along. Because you do see Horrors and Bloodletters fighting together on Arthas Moloch, as I recall. And so, what I'm thinking is that Tzeentch wants to use Farsight as this source of insurrection to crack the greater good. But Farsight, as far as we understand it, works that out. He realizes just what a threat Chaos poses, and thus rather than reveal the truth and be that harbinger of change and insurrection, he goes into exile. He denies his own fate and walks away. Is where I think they're going to go with it, to show Farsight's importance, is that he could have brought the entire Empire crashing down, the entire Tau of Ar crashing down, but he didn't.
That sounds actually really interesting.
Maybe. Like, that's a really great place to go with it. And it actually says, oh, the Tau don't matter. Why do people think the Tau matter? There's this tiny thing in the middle of nowhere. Yes, in the grand scheme of things, they're not that big. But their fall, manipulated by Tzeentch and Khorne, could crack the entire eastern fringe into darkness. Does that make them significant now?
I'm still annoyed by the fact that, oh no, the Death Guard are about to invade, the Tau's home system, and then it just sort of fuck off.
It wasn't quite home system, it was a Startide Nexus, and then that's way out in front of the Empire, it's way out to the east of the actual main Empire.
No, it allowed the gateway into the Tau home system, though. That's my point. But, they came that close to basically posing a threat to, the world of Tau itself, and they just decided to fuck off.
Some went through and just never came out the other side.
I wonder if it's like something from Deep Space Nine with the Prophet aliens, whatever. There was a Tau known as the Cisco or something, I don't know. The game must continue.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll see if they go anywhere with the Death Guard and the Tau going forward, because, yeah, it doesn't have to be a direct invasion. It might just be infecting the Startide Nexus and the warp portal to stop them using it, leaving the Nexus alone and using Shadow Sun as the next catalyst for change to break her will with this never-ending grind and stalemate that she has now going on in the systems she's trying to take, and grinding her down and using her as the next Farsight. Maybe. I don't know. Just an idea. I love how we actually got to that from talking about humanity being sacrificed to Iniad, and I ended up going on a massive rant about Tzeentch, Khorne, and the Tau. Oops. Never mind. Has there anything else that I need to say about the things that we got asked? Which is not many, because the whole entire show was late. Sorry. What did we get? Actually, I think that's kind of all the questions that are pertinent and non-medical. So, yeah, I'm kind of out of questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I apologise to everyone listening if this is going to be a very short episode. Oh, we cut out again? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that, I was just talking.
As I was saying, it brings me back to the point of saying, I apologise to everyone if this episode is a bit shorter than normal with the combination of technical difficulties and all that. And
the show coming out a week late because I was unable to edit it. So that's why there's so few questions, is because there's just been far less time for people to ask them because the show's not been out that long.
Yeah.
So, sorry, my bad.
So, unless there's anything else to add, I think that might be it for this episode.
Yeah, there's a couple of suggestions for the name of the Filthy Casuals podcast that the comment suggested regarding our comment about not being gameplay people. So there was one in here which was, I had it and now I've lost it. The Filthy Neophytes podcast, not bad. Armchair General.
Oh, I like
quite
that one.
like that. I like that one. The Divan Inquisitors. There's a armchair reference, I think. Is there any others? Actually, I think that might have just been it. But yeah, there was a couple of nice little ideas there. That is everything. Sorry again about the lateness of the last episode. And thus the affected shortness of this one. We don't know how long it's actually going to be in the edits after all of our hitches in getting it cut together, but we hope it's been an enjoyable show nonetheless.
Yes, so until next time, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this has been Tactica Imperialis.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.